Boom. Perfect. So before our technical difficulties, I asked you how to cut this because this is weirdly shaped. What's the name of the shape of this? Does it have a name?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
I do not believe it has a name very specifically. I'm sure that people would give it a name. Um, yeah, not that I know of off the top of my head. It's not very common, so like I haven't seen it very often, and that's why NeverAsh, Tom and oh my gosh, Thomas and Steve. Sorry, Steve. But they came out with this cigar for that reason. Like it's kind of a fun little thing that you see, and you've got what I thought you were gonna ask. I knew you were gonna ask a question,
Mm-hmm.
and just by the way, for everybody knowing out there, I do recommend a V cut on this. Chris did not have a V cut, so he cut it, but never be afraid to cut it again. Never
Mm-hmm.
be afraid to try and just it's your cigar. Like keep going until you like it. You don't have to cut it once. Be like, terrible draw. Well, this is gonna suck. Like
Yeah.
like it's your cigar, man. Like even if you have to cut below the cap to have a good experience for even 15 minutes, it's better than throwing it away.
Mm-hmm.
Like never like just be like, well, end of that one. I'm going to
Yeah.
suffer through this next 30 minutes of cigar. Like if you're suffering through a cigar, you're doing something wrong. Like absolutely.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't guilty of doing that. Especially, I know for sure I did it at a lounge because they had like the table cutter, and so I like cut it, and I was like, "Oh, that's mangled," but I was like too ashamed, so I just put it right into my mouth before anybody could see it and lit it up.
That's that hard part about lounges, man. You feel like you got a eagle eye on you. Have I ever told the story of my first ever experience at a cigar lounge?
No, no, not to me at least.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I love telling this story because now I'm the cigar, like everybody, it makes me laugh that people come up to me. I was hosting a golf outing and we sold a bunch of cigars this weekend. Everybody's like, man, dude, like you're the guru. And I'm like, it's so funny for you to say that. We had a couple college guys in the golf outing. They were asking me a bunch of questions like, man, like I never knew like this and that. And I was like, and they're like, man, like you just don't know, you know. I'm like, I didn't know. I get it. Like I'm not, like I've been
Yep.
posting cigar education for 3 years. You'd hope I know something by now. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
my first ever cigar experience, I was in Cincinnati. I was going to college. I loved cigars already. I knew I liked cigars because my dad had given me a bunch of hand-me-down Macanudo whites and all this sort of stuff, and I was like enjoying them. And that's what I did in college. I played college football. For those of you that haven't seen the helmet in the background, that is my helmet. I played 1 year here at Kennesaw State, then transferred up to Division III. But um, at Thomas More University, shout out Thomas More. But I was like in college. I was like, you know what? I'm 20 years old. I'm gonna go in. This was before the age was 21 that you had to go into a cigar lounge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I went in. I was like, you know, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna buy my own cigar. Like I'm gonna do this. And I remember pulling up to the cigar lounge and my heart just going boom, 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 boom.
Big time.
I was like, dude, just relax, like breathe, like everything's gonna be fine. So I walk in, and this is like not a really nice lounge. It is not fancy. It's not. It's like not a hole in the wall, but it's not a. It's a average cigar shop. It's a shop.
Mm-hmm.
There was like
Right.
one leather couch that was clearly worn down from years of use, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And they sold pipes there too, so it was like one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walk in, and the tobacconist is like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I just panic. I went, "Oh, I just got off work. I just thought I'd come in for a cigar before I go home to the wife." I literally said that. I'm single. I'm 20. I just like I panicked. I was like, oh, like I thought I was like, this is what I should say. Like this
So
is
you don't
the
have a wedding ring on either?
no. I didn't even think about that till now. I mean, I was bullshitting my ass off. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, man, like, come on in the humidor. I mean, he knew right away, and I commend him. This is what's awesome about cigar lounges. Tobacconists are amazing. You go in, and I have met like one bad tobacconist in my entire experience who clearly was just like, you don't really know what you're doing. You don't really know what you want. Like, just get it and get out. Like, only
Mm-hmm.
one time, and I've been to a lot of cigar lounges. So, this guy, credit him a million times. I should probably go back to that lounge. My parents still live up there. I should go back to that lounge and be like, hey man, just want you to know, like, I have a cigar business now, and I do custom cigars. And if you want to buy this Dennis Rodman cigar, I can do it. Like start selling them to him.
Right.
Like, but like you treated me really well. If he's still there, well, I doubt he's still there. But
Right.
8 years later, but I was just like, yeah, whatever. So he leads me into the humidor, and he's like, what do you typically like to smoke? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't recognize anything. And then I see the Macanudo Inspirato White, and I'm like, well, that's my go-to. And he's like, yeah, it's not a bad. He's like, yeah, that's not a bad one. And he's like, what else? And I was like, oh, I was not prepared for a follow-up question.
I didn't know there was gonna be a pop quiz.
Yeah, and then I'm like looking around, and I see the Oliva Series V Milanio. This
Nice.
is 2016. Yeah, no, yeah, 2016. Yeah, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
It was the cigar of the year of 2015, the Oliva Series V Milanio. And I see it.
Yeah.
It has a sign, cigar of the year, blah blah blah, #1, cigar aficionado, all this. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, you can't go wrong here. You can't go wrong here. He's like, definitely not. And I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Like, I'm just pointing the one that had a good rating on the wall. I'm like, and
Yeah.
he's like, so what are you thinking today? And I'm like, I'll go with this. And I picked the Oliva Series V Milanio, and that was my first ever Oliva Series V Milanio. I walked out and wrung out my shirt from all the pit sweat. And I tell everybody the reason that I love doing cigar beginner education is because I was the worst beginner. I did
Yes.
everything in the books. Like my first ever cigar, I licked the whole thing.
Yeah. Gotta
I thought
humidify that bad boy.
you got to keep it moist, right? I
Mm.
don't, like I thought that, and then the actually a lot of people said they've never heard this, but somebody told me that you're supposed to heat up the tobacco. So
From the
I was
outside.
yeah, they were like that way it gets an even burn. I'm like okay, so I'm like I'm like they're like but make sure you don't like char the outside. I'm like okay, that's tough. I'm like this is a mad scientist project I got going on here. I was the worst beginner of all beginners, so that's
Mm-hmm.
my story, and that's why I love when anybody's like, man, like I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, I didn't either. Welcome to my world.
Exactly.
Scroll my content for like 30 minutes, and you'll feel like a freaking guru.
Yep. Dude, that's what got me started too. I was the same way with whiskey. And by the way, two hobbies that are so intimidating to get into. So like
Yes, yes.
it I remember my first time going to a lounge very similar where luckily the guy didn't come talk to me because it was pretty busy. So like
Mm.
I'm not kidding you though, he had to know I was an idiot. I probably wandered around the humidor for like 30 minutes with no idea what I was looking at. Just wandering around and finally picked one, but it's just so intimidating. And like those little ones like you mentioned that just had like a couch in there, those are almost more intimidating
Yeah,
cuz you're like everybody here knows each other basically. This is
yeah,
probably
the
like an old
regulars. Yeah,
school. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Dude.
So getting to this cigar, I want to make sure I get to it before it goes out. Oh, you might be past it already, but did you notice that it had a different? It's not a cap. Uh, Tobacco on the foot of the cigar.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. What's going on there?
So on the foot of the cigar, it's got a little Habano wrap, and that is really to give you two different experiences. So it's to try and help you understand the transition of what some flavors can look like. And I'm sorry that we missed this. We got caught up in my own story, but I'm like just on the fringe of it, and I'm excited to see the transition because people say 90%, somewhere around 90% of the flavor of a cigar comes from the wrapper. So that
Mhm.
being a Habano wrap, they tried to give you a different experience so you can learn through the Il Piccolo kind of what some cigar flavors could look like, and it's supposed to change.
I'm just starting to get to that transition actually. Now I want to say when I first lit it up, you know me and my notes. I got a note that I don't think I've ever gotten from a cigar, and it was distinct enough. I'm very confident in saying this. It tasted like pistachio. 100% it tasted like pistachio. Tell
Okay,
me I'm
hold on.
wrong.
Hold
Yeah,
on. I'm not looking for pistachio, okay? I'm like, man, I'm looking at the Habano flavor to the Connecticut.
I
That's all I'm
wasn't
thinking
looking
about.
for it. It found me, man. It found me. I was like pistachio pudding, pistachio ice cream, just pistachio. Like sometimes you get an almond nuttiness. This was like distinctly pistachio nuttiness.
It's really deep. That's a real stretch for me. It's a real
I'll
stretch
tell
for
you
me.
what. I'll also say I feel like this is very perfumey, like very like maybe floral's the right word for it. It's got like a herbal, perfumey
Yeah.
vibe to it.
Yeah, it's really light and approachable. Is like it's soft is what I should say, not light.
Mm-hmm.
It's a soft smoke, and I think that's where like the floral flavors probably combine with that. I think in the beginning you get kind of that a little bit of oomph, but as it eases into that Connecticut side, it definitely is a soft, easy, relaxing. And this is a smaller cigar for those out there. I don't have a cigar to compare it to, but it's a smaller cigar. It's going to be a quicker smoke. I love the Il Piccolo in the morning. I think it's a great morning smoke,
Ooh.
especially with coffee,
Oh,
taking your
with a
first couple
coffee.
sips. Yeah,
Yes. I
yeah,
could totally see
100%.
that working. I guess we should officially introduce it like we normally do on our show here. If you want to
Yes,
roll into it.
absolutely. The cigar of the week this week, guys, is from NeverAsh Cigars. It is the Il Piccolo.
And if you are just jumping on and you don't know our names yet, my name is Chris and I am the whiskey expert but the cigar noob.
And I'm Adam, and I'm the cigar expert, but the whiskey noob.
And we're about to get into our pairings now that we've had our little discussion about cigar lounges. So, I feel like those discussions really help give me some time to understand the cigar. Otherwise, we jump into the pairings, and I'm like, I don't really know what the cigar tastes like yet, but I'll try the pairings. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
it helps me get acquainted to it. But we're gonna try this Il Piccolo with 3 different pairings today. We've got all over the board. We've got an Irish whiskey, we've got a bourbon whiskey with some finish to it, and we've got an American single malt. So we're going to try some super different flavors with it. I'm going to try to predict right now that I think I'm going to like the Westward whiskey American single malt the most with this because of these herbal floral flavors I'm getting from it. They really remind me of what I get from Westward. I could be totally wrong about that. Obviously, this stuff's not very intuitive, but that's my guess.
If we're giving guesses, I'm going Wheelhorse Cigar Blend, just because it's undefeated. It
I
hasn't,
know.
and I almost want to jinx it. And
Yeah.
guys, Wheelhorse, I love you. I love the Wheelhorse. If you don't believe me, look at this. I
Yeah.
love the Wheelhorse Cigar Blend. Chris is again. I'm getting slapped on the wrist again. But
If you're in the audio version, he's got like 2 glasses left in his bottle.
yeah, I do a bad job. Whatever. Have a good time. I
Yeah.
work from home, and my desk is literally 5 feet from this entire selection. It's pretty tough, but
Yeah.
yeah, I stare at it all day. But it's undefeated, and I almost want to jinx it because they can't be perfect. The cigar blends can't be perfect. They can't get it right every time. I love you guys, Real Horse. Love this cigar blend whiskey, but I want you to be wrong. But I also am gonna just say that I actually do think it's gonna be the best.
Yeah. I thought about that when I was saying it, but I was like, I'm also like, maybe it won't be this time. I don't know. We'll see. It's such a good cigar blend though. And this
Yep.
cigar's weird, man. I'm still sitting here trying to nail it down. This is an interesting flavor. I don't know if herbal's the right I feel like herbal's not the right word for it. It's something different going on with it.
So this is a cigar that is going to consistently change because of the shape. Shape plays a
Oh.
huge role in cigars. Because think about it, you have to have more tobacco here than you have here. So there
Mhm.
cannot be the same exact blend all the way through. It's
Right.
impossible. There has to be more tobacco of something here because you can't. It's not like here they decided to put more wrapper. There's still the same wrapper all the way through, but less and less filler and less binder. So it should
Mhm.
change the entire cigar, which is a fun experience as well.
Yeah, it's making it really hard to nail down, which is going to make it wild for these pairings. So
I love it.
let's jump into these bad boys. Pairing number 1, we've got Dead Rabbit Irish Whiskey. We've had it on here before. We've really enjoyed it. Very approachable Irish whiskey, which makes me excited to try it with a very approachable cigar. This whiskey has your standard Irish whiskey flavors, okay? It's got some of that buttery sweetness, a little bit of that granola. Nothing crazy, but overall, and it's relatively inexpensive. I want to say in that $40 range. Overall, just a nice, sweet, approachable Irish whiskey that's not boring. Because sometimes Irish whiskeys, for me at least, if I drink a lot of bourbon, if you do too, sometimes Irish whiskeys are a little bit mellow. And I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
for being in that lower price range, it's still got some character and some body to it.
I would agree with that. Right off the bat, I did. So it's 88. Yeah, 88 proof.
Hmm.
Interesting. It definitely has. It's not like the Irish whiskey we just had. I'm gonna get it right. I don't remember the first name, but I know it's John's something Lane.
There you go. Powers John's
Powers.
Lane.
Powers John's Lane. Um, but it's similar to that, but it has less oomph, like less explosion in the mouth as far as flavor. But
Hmm.
when you go to that cigar, so when you go from this Dead Rabbit to the Il Piccolo, man, are you getting just some creamy goodness, in
Hmm.
my opinion. You're getting a very that lightness in the cigars coming out, but it still has it keeps the little twinge of spices. I'm not going to say spiciness, but spices that I think the whiskey has a little twinge of spice, just a little, and I think
Hmm.
the cigar has a little, just a little, and I think that remains as it transfers from the Dead Rabbit to the El Piccolo.
Yeah, it's very like baking spices, almost like
Yeah,
a coffee cake type spices, where it's spice, like you said, spices but not spicy. It definitely
correct.
brings that out. Very approachable. This is a so far beginner pairing through and through. This is both sides are being very approachable. Not
Yeah.
beginner in the sense that it's not complex, because it is, but beginner in the sense that it's very approachable. Nothing to really scare you away from it, which I'm liking.
Yeah, I mean, if you're someone that's new to cigars and new to whiskey, this is, yeah. I 100% agree. I think I can already make that assumption without going back to the whiskey yet. But I am
Hmm.
intrigued. Right off the bat, too, I love the way this cigar ash holds. I feel like it's just a fascinating ash because it has a shape to it. Like so it just like it molds and it's really
Big time.
hard to construct a cigar like this. And NeverAsh is a boutique cigar company, and I give them 100% credit of having the balls to make a cigar like this and launch it. Like
Hmm.
name me another cigar boutique cigar associate or sorry, that's an association too. Name another boutique cigar company that has a freaky looking different, size to it. Like there's it's very
Hmm.
rare and this is fantastic. So, credit to NeverAsh on that.
Yeah, and I'll also say one of the things that's nice about this, I would also say this helps beginners, is when you go from the whiskey to the cigar, you get that pairing that we just talked about. It mellows it out. It's very sweet, and it also has the baking spices, which I think darken it up a little bit, like a brown sugar and a cinnamon instead of a white sugar and
Yeah.
lighter spices. Um, but then you puff it like a second and a third time, and that pairing starts to go away already, which is
Yeah.
really helpful if you're new to pairings, because you can immediately see within the span of 3 puffs how it tastes when it's paired versus how it tastes when it's not paired. I like it when they rebound like that for the beginners.
Yeah, so oddly enough, now when I go from the old Piccolo to the Dead Rabbit, I feel like it's mellowing out the Dead Rabbit.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah. So maybe this cigar has a little bit more oomph than we're giving it credit for because I am not super pleased with how mellow the Dead Rabbit's getting. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
getting down to like what like a I mean, I don't think this actually exists, but like a 70 proof. Like it's almost like,
Right.
like really low, like too low.
Yep. I totally agree. I think, like the thing that puts the Dead Rabbit a step above, in terms of price, like since it's $40, you want it to be better than your cheaper whiskeys, and it has that body to it. I will say this is antagonistic in that it's going back to like a Tullamore Dew, which is like a $20 Irish whiskey, which is
Yeah.
still really good for $20, but it's like that where it's like you wish there was a little bit more. So I would say this is definitely antagonistic.
Yeah. I agree with you 100% on that one. Going to the rating side is difficult now that we're jumping straight into it.
Mm-hmm.
I do have mine. Do you have yours ready?
I do. I do.
All right, go right ahead.
I've got this at a 6.9 because I would not be upset with it, but I'd probably look for something else to go with it. We've had this Dead Rabbit with other ones. I think the GTO La Cura. I believe that one, it was a dark
Really?
cigar and it went surprisingly well with it. If
I
I'm not,
know we had it. I know we had it with the Candela because it
we
was
did.
the yeah, it was Irish St. Patrick's Day. So we had to
Yes.
stick with the Irish theme. But yeah,
Oh
I
yes,
remember
I'm
it.
wrong. We had a different Irish whiskey with the liqueur. My
Oh,
bad.
okay.
But
Um,
same idea where it was an Irish whiskey. So
yeah,
I
right.
know this
Yeah.
could do better, I guess is what I'm getting at.
No, and I agree with that, and that's why I'm going with a 6 flat.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
just that this is not often that I would say this, but I need something more from the whiskey. Like, come on, like you
Mm-hmm.
got to give me a little bit more oomph out of that. Maybe, well, I mean that freaking Fratello the boxer last week was rare Connecticut as well that had a little spice to it. So we've just got to find a really good light Connecticut for this dead rabbit. I think it just lands in that realm, which there's no problem with that, right? We've just had not a lot of very light Connecticut's on the perfect pairing club so far.
Yeah, I gotta find what we had with the dead rabbit before. I'll do some looking here and see what we've put with it. But we'll get into pairing number two because we are gonna jump now into the more body, more flavorful
Oh yeah.
pairing. So this next pairing is Wheel Horse's Cigar Blend. So this is a bourbon whiskey finished in sherry, port, and Armagnac casks. Let me get it closer to the camera so that the brightness will adjust so everybody can see it. There we go. And so this is going to have a lot more oomph to it. It's 101 proof, so it's not going to knock your socks off, but it's got a lot of body to it for that 101 proof, which is I think the real appeal of it is it's so much flavor without too much alcohol burn. It's They did a great job. I'll say that. We've paired this with multiple cigars, and man, did they do a good job.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the cigar blend. For those of you out there, it is just a marketing term. There is no actual cigar consultation or tobacco involvement or anything. But they do try. Like it is an effort to make it pair well with cigars. But it's not like a scientific thing where they did something involved with cigars or anything like that crazy. But yeah, I mean it's just right off the cuff. Great, great initial sip,
Mm-hmm.
great puff. It's bringing back that habano flavor that was in the beginning, so it's definitely elevating the body of the cigar. Um, but I think it's complementary. It's complementing all the good things about this cigar, all of them.
Definitely. I think the whiskey has this deep, dark, warm flavor to it, right? And then you go to the cigar, which is a Connecticut. It's got like a creaminess to it. I agree, it's bringing out the Habano flavor. The finishes of the whiskey are like pretty fruity. Go over to the cigar, and the cigar's like creamy. It's got like that berries and cream. Not necessarily like it tastes like berries and cream, but like that playfulness where it's like two super different flavors where they're kind of playing with each other like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree.
and it's enjoyable. It's a very yin and yang type pairing that tastes really nice, I would say.
I agree 100% on that. The berries and cream type thing, I think it is for me. It's probably I need to start calling it a bourbon flavor because I think I'm just learning enough now. But that it's that dark fruit bourbon flavor that I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting more than than the creamy side. But yeah, 100% good pairing on that. I mean, I'm gonna give another nod to this ash. Like it is nearly perfect. I haven't ashed this thing yet. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that construction for a wonky, little size like this, very impressive. Very impressive, Never Ash. All the credit to you guys. But I'm excited to go from cigar to whiskey here.
Is that like the motivation there behind NeverAsh? Is like their ashes hold on really long, or is that just a coincidence?
Yes, and it's a marketing thing a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like if you look at their, social media and all that, like their tagline is like show us that ash. Like so
Oh,
it's a fun, like the guys there, it's obviously Italian with the Il Piccolo, fairly positive it means little man, something like
okay.
along those lines. But yeah, I mean absolutely it's a part of that play in marketing is like never ash, so show us that ash. Like they do a good job. And but if you're gonna do that marketing, it's almost like a cigar blend, right? If you're gonna do
Mm-hmm.
that marketing, you got to make it good, and they do a great job. Like I mean, never ash. I guess I'm just never gonna ash on this one. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Now, going from the cigar back to the whiskey, I will say I'm a touch disappointed in the way the whiskey tastes. I feel like because it's a cigar blend, I'm looking for negatives. So I want to be clear about that bias right now. Because if you haven't listened to our old episodes, Wheel Horse Cigar Blend goes phenomenally with every cigar we've tried it with so far. Um, but I do feel like it's losing a touch of that body. I'm not getting quite as much. It is very sweet. It's got a very good dichotomy of sweet and spicy when you go back to the cigar blend.
Hmm.
But I think some of the depth of the barrel and the finish are gone a little bit. Where it's more just sweet and spicy now for me.
I think I agree with you 100% on that. That you
Mm-hmm.
you took the words right out of my mouth. That yeah, it's lesser, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate because that cigar tasted so good. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was really hopeful. I was so happy to be right and disappointed that we didn't find something that didn't work well with the cigar blend. Um, but to the cigar blend's credit, I guess it is enhancing the cigar. That's like,
Yes, it is.
well, we're horse. You did a good job enhancing the cigar, but not every cigar is going to enhance you. So
Right.
I think we've gone on that point. So getting to the rating point of this is,
Yeah.
whew, that is that adds a very hard complexity for me because the cigar is good. Hmm.
I've got mine if you need a minute to think. I
Yeah, go
can buy
right
you
ahead.
some time. I put mine at 7.5 because I
Shit.
loved what it did to the cigar. And you said before 7.5, it's like 3 out of 4. It's like 3 quarters. I think that's exactly where this is. It's good. It's not amazing. It's not bad.
I hate you because now it doesn't seem. If you heard the little background noise in the audio or obviously the video version, me say, "Oh shit," because that was exactly what I was thinking. 7.5.
Okay, awesome. I'll put it down. I mean, hey, when we rate the same, I feel like that means we know what we're doing. It makes me feel a
Right.
little bit
We're
more valid.
narrowing it down a little bit onto something here.
Yeah, it cuts
We're
down
getting
my
to it.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I mean it I think it's a true 7.5. It's the it could be our palates a little bit, but overall I think it's yeah, 3 out of 4
Hmm.
because the cigar brings it up heavy.
I think that's a very fair rating. Now, jumping into the third one, which I'm hoping is going to be my favorite. That's what I guessed was going to be my favorite. We've got Westward Whiskey's Cask Strength American Single Malt. So this is one of their core lineup. Ours is 125 proof. It's cask strength, so I don't know if
I
every
did
bottle is
not know that.
125 proof. It might be. What was that?
I did not know it was 125 proof. I gotta get ready now. I haven't taken a sip yet.
It's a heater. But I will say it's an American single malt. So it's not quite as aggressive of 125 as bourbons are. Because bourbons are already full bodied and spicy. Adam's face looks like he disagrees with me. He's like, I don't know. That tastes like 125 to me.
Yeah, it tastes like 125, but we haven't had an American single malt in a little while.
Yeah, we haven't, and it's very full bodied. A lot of American single malts can taste similar to Scotch single malts, where they're very mellow, very buttery. I think Westward does a good job of having spunk, having a little bit of pop to it. Still not as much as a bourbon, don't get me wrong, but they add a little bit of body, some spice, some things like that. So it's gonna give you a touch of black pepper, a little bit of a floral note. Sometimes a little bit of a chocolatey cocoa note, which is really weird to get from whiskey. Overall, a very, very complex glass of whiskey, though.
So, I mean, I know that 125 did it shocked my palate a good bit. I think it's just because of the elevation maybe that we've been having here in the
Yeah.
blends. Like again, the Dead Rabbit went down to like a 70 with the pairing, right? It felt lesser, and even the Wheel Horse Cigar Blend felt lesser. So, but then this one does not feel any lesser. Like literally, I feel like I got tingles on my lips still.
Yes.
But holy crap, props to this cigar. We were talking about it last episode in the post chat. If you guys aren't in the Perfect Pairing Club, if you're a part of the club, you get every single week the behind the scenes of Chris and I right after the podcast. We just chat. We've always done it, so we decided to release it
Hmm.
and film it for you guys. But we talked about it. There's some cigars out there that just pair, and somehow this maybe we just misconstrued this cigar all the way out of nowhere because somehow we were thinking this Dead Rabbit was going to work, but I think it's pairing better with this Westward.
Yep.
American single malt 125 proof than it did with anything else that we've had today by far. It does not back down an ounce. I don't feel at all the cigar is getting run over, steamrolled, and I don't know how. Like that, that is a miracle. That I
Yeah.
did not see that coming.
Those like coffee cake baking spices I mentioned in the beginning, they're like full force. Like it is cinnamon, brown sugar, creamy flavor. Like it's really nice.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it but it's still not punchy. Because sometimes they'll grab like the black pepper from the whiskey and the cigar will be super black peppery. It's not doing that. It's
right.
not a very aggressive smoke still. Really, really nice, subtle, sweet flavors with full bodied cinnamon and brown sugar type notes.
Really impressive. I was distracted there because I'm still holding on to my ash, and I know Chris is as well. But what I want to say is, neither of us have softened. Like neither of us are going like this.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, just like if you're not on the video version, it's like when you hold the cigar like a candlestick and you try and smoke it upside down to hold the ash. All the cigar
Mm-hmm.
people in the world have done it. If you're not in, that cigar side, but Chris was just talking and he was like using like very aggressive hand motions.
I do.
And
I really get
dude,
the hands
I
involved.
was waiting. I was waiting for that ash to go straight into the camera. Like, and that would have been
Yeah.
the best clip we've had so far. But like straight
No
into this.
joke.
But I mean, very, very impressive construction, NeverAsh. Like, you're living up to your name with this. Like, I mean, holy cow. And I know a couple weeks ago, if you guys are following the Dreamer Cigars page, I did a little cheat. I revealed to the rest of the world what some, I've actually never done it before, but some very few like smaller pages, they try and get a lot of views by having a giant ash, and you put a
Mm-hmm.
paper clip all the way through the cigar, and the ash just
Mm.
holds all the way through. And I did
Clever.
that with the Gurkha Marquesa. I just posted it a couple days ago, and the ash, actually, I was super impressed too. That I even like a couple times was like, wait a second, what? And it was like, 5, 6 inches long. I was like, holy crap! Like, why is this not
Wow.
falling? But this is true. There's no,
Right.
we did not plan this. This is, I mean, I'm jinxing it here, but look, there it is. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's so impressive. Very, very high props to NeverAsh on this pairing and this ash. But have you gone back to the whiskey yet?
I have something very specific.
Oh boy.
So not that bad. Not like a super weird flavor note, but so with American single malts, with single malts in general, but I get it more with American single malts, and I think it has to do with the climate in the U.S. when they're aging these. But I tend to get just a subtle cocoa note. So there's usually like extreme maltiness, there's fruit, and there's like a subtle cocoa. I think it brought it out a lot in the Westward. Like when I went to take a sip of it immediately, like I wasn't even looking for it, and I was like, "This tastes like cocoa." Like it's got a dark chocolatey vibe to it, and
Hmm.
then like as you take the sip, it's immediate, and then as it slowly goes away, the malt and the fruit and the things come back. It's a really weird experience, but it's really. And then when you go back to the cigar directly from that sip, you can kind of hunt it out. You can kind of see that cocoa.
I'm just gonna say this. How on earth is this complimentary?
Right? You wouldn't think at all.
How? So props to you, Chris, man. You picked this one. I mean, I know you kind of
It was
covered
a
your
lucky
bases.
guess. Yeah,
You went full
right.
spectrum here. But
Yeah.
holy crap, how on earth? I'm going to have to tell Tom and Steve that guys, this is wow. Like, great pairing. And people, I'm going to tell them to put it on their marketing. People are going to be like, no way. I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, yeah. Put that on the marketing and watch everybody. Like, Chris and I both know it. Hate comments are their comments too. They increase the algorithm. So
Yeah.
you're gonna get all the backlash, and then you're gonna get the people that say, "Wait, they were right. It
Mm-hmm.
does pair well with this 125 proof, um, whoop, sorry, 125 proof American single malt." Like, wow, wow, wow,
And it's
very
a
impressive.
beautiful pairing. I'm going back and forth as you're talking, and like you get a little something different every time. That 125 proof is even getting my tongue a little bit, but so much flavor. Like it's one of those I call them like flavor bombs. Um, really, really early on in the Whiskey Noobs podcast on an episode, I had a guest that mentioned it was like a spanking. It's like oh, but this is like where it's like so strong, but it's also you keep going back to it. You're like, this tastes so good, but it burns. It's like if you've ever had a spicy, like flaming hot Cheetos and you can't quit eating them, but you're like, oh, it's painful, but I can't stop.
Yeah.
That is how this pairing is. It is so complex, something different every time you go back to it. Um, I would have I didn't even realize it was 125 when I thought that this was going to do well. I would have never thought that something this strong wouldn't steamroll the cigar. I knew it was going to make the whiskey taste good. When I tasted this cigar, I shouldn't say I knew because it's so unintuitive, but I thought this is going to make this whiskey taste good. But man, the cigar still tastes super good too. And my ash is still holding on, which is just a miracle. I can't even believe that.
Yeah, I did. I did go ahead and ash mine because I want to work on the second ash here. But yeah, I mean, like we'll just stop there. You were right. You were right about the Westward. Give you props to it. Let's get into the ratings. I will go first. I've got a 9 flat.
All right. Yep. I was between a 9 flat and a 9-1, and I put 9-1. I went a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give this room. I want to give this cigar some room to
Mm-hmm.
play. But I'm almost giving it a not. I was thinking 9.3 in the beginning, but I was like, dude, there's like that. I'm still almost in disbelief. I almost brought
Mm-hmm.
it down. Like I'm like, there's like how on earth did this lighter cigar play with 125 American single malt that burned my mouth the first time I tasted it? Like very impressive. Wow. Props to NeverAsh on that one. Getting into it, going down the line, we both had the same sequence, right? Did we?
Yep.
We both did Westward at number one. We did the Wheel Horse Cigar Blend at number two. Dead Rabbit at number three. Now, Chris, what would you have as the fourth pairing?
No hesitation here. I want to try the Old Line Whiskey Navy Strength.
No,
That's also an
no,
American single malt. Yes.
that
And
was
it's
mine.
full bodied. Dude, I got to try that. I got to try it.
Shoot, that was mine. Now I gotta try and come up with something else. I'm trying to think quickly. Um, all right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just do this because I'm gonna try because I think there was something there. I'm gonna go the same way you did last podcast. I'm gonna give you another shot. I'm going
Okay.
Copper and Cask cigar blend.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And
I'm
that
gonna give
also
another.
I think is a little higher proof.
It
So
is, yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
yeah. So I remember it being a little bit more bitey. I feel like, all right, give it. It's got a little bit more oomph, but I want to give Cigar Blend another chance because of what it did to the cigar. The cigar was delicious in that. So if I can find that Cigar Blend that works well, bada bing. So, Chris,
Totally.
great episode, man. Let's go try that fourth pairing, man.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers.